Hello everyone, a very good evening. Welcome to Oliveboard. This is the CAIIB Foundation, July 2025, and we are covering the BRBL paper, all the modules unit wise. Today we'll be covering the module C, unit 17F, and this unit basically talks about the various provisions of the SURFACE Act, and today we'll be discussing the offences and penalties. So the act has imposed many statutory obligations, right? And there are penalties provided in the act for the breach of the provisions or the rules or the regulations. So we'll be discussing about the offences and the penalties. Also, which court is empowered to impose any penalty for the breach of the provision, or how can the application or a complaint be filed that there has been a breach of any of the act or rules or regulation. All right. So now amendment was made, a very important amendment was made in 2016. Before that, certain provisions were existing for the penalties, and then after 2016 the provisions have been changed. That also we'll be seeing. So let us begin. First, when we talk about the penalties. So in the case, if the securitization or the reconstruction company or the secured creditor, they fail to perform any duties which have been stated in the act, then the company and the officers who are guilty for the default, they were liable to pay a fine which could be extended to 5,000 rupees for each day during which the default continues. So these penalties will be imposed on the officers or on the ARC that was appointed for the reconstruction purpose, or the secured creditor even. And but these provisions were existing before the amendment that was carried out in 2016. So if any officer or if more than one officers were involved, they were also liable to pay the fine. So both the company as a whole and the officers, they were liable to pay the fine of rupees 5,000 for each day during which the default continues. And this was before 2016 amendment. Then if we talk about the penalties for non-compliance, again, if RBI has given a direction regarding the securitization or reconstruction, right? And the company or their officers, they fail to follow those directions. For example, RBI wants to conduct an audit or they want to conduct an inspection, and they have given the direction to provide certain documents or information, but the company fails to do so. So that will come under non-compliance. This is given under section 12 of the SURFACE Act, that RBI has statutorily, which is statutorily empowered. RBI has the powers to issue directions to the securitization or the reconstruction companies. And if any such company they fail to comply with any of the directions, then the company is punishable with a fine not exceeding rupees 5 lakh for the default. And if this default is of a continuing one, it continues for more than one day, then additional fine up to rupees 10,000 per day of the default can be imposed. But again, these provisions were in existence before 2016, before the amendment was made, and these have also been omitted. So we have seen the penalties in two cases. First, if there's a non-compliance of the rules or regulations given in the act. Second, if there was a non-compliance of the directions that were issued by RBI. All right. In both the cases, the penalties have been given. In the first case, rupees 5,000 and extended to each day. The default continues. Second case, where there's non-compliance of the directions issued by RBI, then the fine not exceeding rupees 5 lakh for the default. Additional fine of rupees 10,000 per day. Now, if we see after 2016, what provisions have been made, or what changes have been made, or what is the penalty as of now. First, we have defined the meaning of or the term of offenses. So offense means if any person contravenes, attempts to contravene, or abets the contravention of the provisions of the SARFAESI Act, then they will be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year or with a fine or both. So earlier, before the amendment, the imprisonment provision was not there, right? But now this contravention, non-compliance, they have been made punishable with imprisonment for a term extended to 1 year, or a fine can be imposed, or both can also be imposed. Also, duties are cast on the borrower, the secured creditor, as well as the securitization and reconstruction company. The act now tells us what are the duties of the borrower. What are like the borrower, when they receive a notice of the assets being acquired for the securitization purpose, they can no longer sell the property, they cannot transfer the property, right? Or if they want to file a complaint, then they have to do so within such and such time period. The secured creditor, how they are going to make sure that the assets, if in their possession, they're kept secure, and the ARC, they're not taking any restrictive measures, or they're not using, let's say, muscle power for the recovery. And if any contravention of these provisions is done, then it will be considered an offense. And these contravention of the provisions is punishable under the provisions of the section 29. So section 29 becomes very important for us. The section 29 of the act tells us that any contravention of the provisions of the act will be punishable, right? Then if we talk about the cognizance of offenses, cognizance means acceptance or taking notice, taking notice. So it is stated in the act, the section 30 says that no court shall take the cognizance of any offense punishable. There are various sections that have been given. Section 27 related to the non-compliance, or section 23, 24, 25, various provisions of the SARFAESI Act are given. So the court will take cognizance only when the complaint has been made in writing, and the complaint is made by an officer of the central registry or any officer which is authorized by RBI. So if the complaint is made by a officer of central registry or RBI, and the complaint should be made in writing, giving all the details as to such and such event has occurred on this date, of this amount, of this nature, all the details have to be provided in the written complaint, right? So only then the cases of the complaint or non-compliance will be accepted by the court, and these offences shall be taken by the metropolitan magistrate or the judicial magistrate of first class only. This is again very important. No other court or no court below the rank of the metropolitan magistrate or the judicial magistrate of the first class can take the cognizance of such offences under the SARFAESI Act, right? So what points are important here? First, no court shall take the cognizance of any offense unless it is provided, unless the complaint is given in writing, and this complaint should contain all the necessary information. This complaint will be made by the officer of central registry or the RBI, and the cognizance or the complaint will be written to or directed to the metropolitan magistrate or the judicial magistrate. All right, these are the important provisions regarding the cognizance of offences. Now, if we talk about the adjudicating authority, first of all, who is the adjudicating authority? It means any officer or a committee of officers of the Reserve Bank of India. Adjudicating authority in this case is the officers of the Reserve Bank, and again, these are designated as such from time to time, but these are designated by the Central Board of the Reserve Bank. All right, so the Central Board is going to appoint the officers who will be acting as the adjudicating authority. And then the adjudicating authority the powers that are available with them to impose the penalty. For example, where any ARC or any person they fail to comply with the directions issued by RBI, or any person who are not complying or going against the provisions of the act, then they are they can be imposed a penalty. Both the company and the person who are in default, a penalty can be imposed on them not exceeding 1 crore rupees or twice the amount involved. If the default is quantifiable, then 1 crore rupees, and if the amount is not quantifiable, then twice the amount of the either 1 crore rupees or twice the amount involved whenever the case is quantifiable, right? And if the default or failure of compliance is a continuing one, it continues for more than 1 day, then a further penalty it may extend to rupees 1 lakh rupees for every day after the first day during which such failure continues. All right. So if the failure is a quantifiable one that we can calculate that this is the amount of default that has occurred, right? Then the penalty can be 1 crore rupees on the company as well as the officers, or twice, two times the amount which is involved in such failure, plus if it is of a continuing nature then rupees 1 lakh. So this is a very, we will say, enhanced amount of penalty as compared to the provisions before the amendment that was made in 2016. And this penalty will be imposed by the adjudicating authority, which is the officer or committee of officers of the Reserve Bank. So for this, the adjudicating authority will first serve a notice on the ARC or the person who is involved in the default, that they should tell that why the amount which is specified in the notice, or why the amount of penalty which is specified in the notice should not be served. They should be given a reason or opportunity to be heard, right? Before taking the final decision, a notice will be sent to them, and the educating authority will give them an opportunity to explain that if the complaint that has been made is a misappropriation or due to human error or anything, so they'll be given a chance to stand their ground to give their explanations. Then if any penalty is imposed, then it will be payable under or within how many days? It will be paid within 30 days. Whenever the penalty is finalized by the adjudicating authority, they will have to, after the notice has been sent, they will have to pay it within 30 days. And if they do not pay the penalty within the specified period, then RBI can also cancel their registration that we saw in the previous session. The cancellation of the registration if there is non-compliance to the directions of the RBI or provisions of the Act. So if they do not pay the penalty, then the registration of the ARC will be cancelled. And again, enough opportunity will be provided to the ARC to be heard, right? So these are the provisions which are made for the penalty. And other things that we have seen, the written complaint made by the officer of the registry or the officer of RBI, and then the adjudicating authority will decide how much penalty will be imposed or what imprisonment term will be given. All of these things are there. Again, the power of the appellant authority is also there. The aggrieved individuals, the aggrieved persons, either the ARC or the officers of the ARC of the company, they can file a further appeal to the appellant authority, the appellate authority, right? They will, when they receive the application, the complaint, after payment of the fees, they will take on the consideration and then they will give their final decision. And that is all from this particular provisions, the penalties and offences. So you need to remember that the provisions were different before the 2016 amendment, and now the provisions have been changed. You can also join the CAIIB selection batch, the classes for which have already begun. for the June July 2025 exam. It is an all-in-one course in both English as well as the bilingual medium. Here you will get all the four papers: ABM, BFM, ABFM, and the BRBL classes, live sessions. Plus, these will be in the non-banking hours in the early morning and the late evening classes. You will get the basic concept clarity plus the advanced prep. So if you want to prepare 100% and you want to clear your exam in this attempt, make sure that you enroll now. You will also get the downloadable study notes, recorded videos for revision, then case study and numerical based tests, sectional tests, which are also covering the modules are there, and the 20 elective papers. So enroll now and join the classes so that you can prepare 100% for your exam. And that is all for today. If you have any doubts, any queries, please let me know. The details of the course are available in the description box. You will find the link to that. Also, you can download the PDF from the description box. Link is given. So I will see you tomorrow with the next chapter. Till then, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you do not miss any of the updates. So thank you so much.